Alrighty, Void. My stamina's starting to wane a little bit, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get through too many more of these, but let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 6th review tonight, so okay, we're making some progress. Backlog is still intense, but this is at least a decent little ding to it. So, I saw a lot of Godzilla films on my queue, so let's get to another one. So, Godzilla. The movie with a million titles for this one. The first one of the Heisei series. Now, my version here is a little on the jankier end since I got this one at a convention, since this was before it actually officially released on DVD over here. But it is now available on Blu-ray, or was. It is now out of print and grossly expensive at about $80 to $120. So, and that's if you are looking at the right version and not one of the one of the unofficial ones, which will only have just the Japanese dialogue and no subtitles. So, I hope to correct that at some point, but, well, here we are. Alright. So, this movie has a lot of different titles. So, it's known as Godzilla. Pretty much just, as a remake title. It's also Godzilla 1984, to differentiate it. Godzilla 1985, version to the American one. Or The Return of Godzilla. Which, this one does seem to be this does seem to keep the original film in continuity a bit. I can't quite recall, because it's been a while since I watched it, but I know for the American remake, American dubbed version, they did indicate that this had happened before, so I do believe this is keeping the original film in continuity and then just going from there. So, well, Godzilla's back. And he's raiding, and this time Godzilla's more of a hungry boy. When he wakes up, he seeks out more radiation to essentially power his radioactive furnace to keep him moving. Essentially, so he aims for nuclear power plants to essentially ingest the radiation. Well, humanity's not completely helpless this time around, as they have essentially are designing a weapon to combat him, the Super X, which is a flying battleship. And, well, it's Super X versus Godzilla. There's no additional monster in this one. It's just Godzilla versus the city, and them doing what they can to essentially put him down. Eventually, try to find a way of imprisoning him in a volcano. Now, the Heisei series is notably darker than the Showa one. Oh, it still gets campy, particularly in the middle. It gets real campy, particularly when Mothra and King Ghidorah come back into the picture. But overall, this one definitely has more of a meaner edge to it. Godzilla looks more frightening. The fangs are more prominent. He doesn't look as friendly. He's definitely stays more of a villain throughout this. Though he will fight other monsters, and he never really becomes the hero. It's just he's a creature protecting his territory, and just humanity just happens to benefit from him fighting the other monsters. He still is a problem for them to deal with, even if he makes it. So, because it's just the Godzilla versus the city, there's less to talk about here. We now have 80s level effects, so the suits are... The Godzilla suit definitely is a little bit more animated, particularly on the close-ups for the head. They built this animatronic that moves and roars and looks really cool. Godzilla definitely does look grimmer throughout the movie. I mean, not as intense as Godzilla Giant Monster's All-Out Attack, but still definitely a little bit more of a mean lizard look. And, the Super X is a decent foil for him. This is humanity's struggle for him, and I think it's the next film that introduces Miki, so I'm going to her yet, as she becomes the staple for the Godzilla series. As this one keeps a much stronger continuity. The other films sort of linked together, but weren't directly, unless they were direct sequels. This one, it's all one steady plot line, so the events in this one influence the next, as the Super X itself becomes almost a recurring character, being rebuilt and improved upon each time around. So, they seem to be trying to slow Godzilla's metabolism with like ice torpedoes, or they use like a particular chemical for it, but that's pretty much what they were. And yeah, definitely. It's not a bad film. It's just not the greatest, and probably one of the. I can't say really one of the weaker films of the Heisei series, as some of the middle ones dive so far into campiness that yeah, okay, but it's definitely has. Without the antagonist there, it definitely doesn't have as much of a draw as like Godzilla versus Biollante or versus Destroyer or Space Godzilla. But it definitely is less campy than when Mothra and King Ghidorah appear, or Mechagodzilla. But overall, it's a fine film. I'll give this one I'll give it 6 MacGuffins. Definitely worthwhile. All right. I think that's all I have on this one, and I think that's all I got in me for tonight. So it's been a pleasure catching up, Void. I know I say this every time, but I'm gonna try to be a bit more consistent. Yeah, try to not let myself go as far as more, especially with how many more of these I got to get through. And I'd love to finish up my backlog by October. Don't know if that's gonna happen because that's like the year anniversary of my show, and I don't want this half the year trailing behind me here, so I'm hoping I can get that done. Looking at my backlog, it's gonna be a stretch, but we'll do our best. Okay, my voice is going. I'll see you later, Void. Bye bye.